UK forces continued to expand the area influenced by the coalition. Their efforts to rid Basra of regime death squads are effective, and they're ongoing. Aggressive patrols beyond Basra resulted in the seizure of a cache of 56 surface-to-surface short-range ballistic missiles and 4 missile launchers. This was in the vicinity of Az-Zubair, just north and west of Basra. While there may be more yet undiscovered, this particular seizure was a significant removal of a threat to our forces in the southern region. Operations were conducted to ensure supply lines remain open, especially in As-Samawa and An-Najaf. As coalition forces clear these areas of regime presence, caches of weapons and ammunition are often found in residential areas, as this next image shows. These weapons and ammunition were found inside of an agricultural building in a neighborhood of An-Najaf. The 1st Marine Expeditionary Force continued its attack toward Baghdad, destroying remnants of the Baghdad Republican Guard Division near Al-Qut and elements of the Al-Nida Republican Guard Division between Al-Qut and Baghdad. The attack continues. 5th Corps attacked Iraqi forces on the approach to Baghdad and seized several key intersections on the south side of the city. The attack continued through the night, and by dawn this morning, the coalition had seized the international airport west of Baghdad, formerly known as Saddam International Airport. The airport now has a new name, Baghdad International Airport, and it is the gateway to the future Iraq. We anticipate that in the coming days, we will continue to see on the ground the types of tactics that we've seen before, including the hiding of combat equipment close to homes, the use of schools, hospitals, and mosques as military facilities, and even the use of civilian assets or even civilians to hide their actions. This short video shows an example of what I just described. In it, you'll see an ambulance near the town of Al-Qut. After a firefight that occurred, you can see personnel right here in this area being extracted after a coalition attack. Let's go ahead and roll the tape. You can see the back of the ambulance is open. These are paramilitaries. The destroyed vehicle there was a military truck that had an anti-aircraft artillery system on its back, and you can see the barrels of the anti-aircraft system right here. That had already been destroyed by coalition forces, and the element you saw was trying to extricate itself from the area. Yesterday I told you that our maritime component discovered a small boat beached along the Khor Abdullah. We've got an image of where that is located. It was on the north bank, and their work continues to make sure the area is cleared. This find was done by our deployed members of the U.S. Coast Guard that are part of the Maritime Force. We have some images of what was recovered from that particular search. Rocket-propelled grenades in this particular image, anti-tank guided missile systems, and the third image is a rubber assault boat itself. As I mentioned, there were tunnels that were associated with this set of 7 caches that were found there, and these types of things were found within the cache. Our leaflet operations have now reached over 37 million leaflets dropped as we continue our efforts to communicate directly with the Iraqi population and with Iraqi military units. Even as the coalition works to preserve Iraq's resources on behalf of the Iraqi people, we continue to find evidence of the regime placing these resources in danger. The next image shows parts of an ancient citadel called Arafah in modern-day Kirkuk within northern Iraq. This site is an archaeological remnant of the Assyrian Empire and is very important to the Assyrian people of northern Iraq since the ancient city of Arafah existed thousands of years ago. The regime has chosen, in this case, to use the ancient wall of the city to protect military equipment, and that's what you see where the arrows are located. This is the actual remnant of the wall itself. There's an ancient tomb inside of it and some more modern buildings that have been built on top. Day by day, the coalition is facilitating the distribution of humanitarian assistance and providing quality of life improvements for the Iraqis. We've learned that the most important need in areas liberated is water. I'd like to show you a video of some of the recent efforts in water distribution. In forward areas, water is provided by military water trailers, as you see here, providing immediate needs of water to the population. Bulk water, larger amounts of water, moved by water trucks from the southern region. These trucks are filled at one of the 11 water points at the end of the Kuwaiti water pipeline near Qasr.
Hey, Jim, it has been very busy here for sure since the last time you and spoke. Helicopters coming in and out continuously, bringing in lots of patients at once. The mood has been pretty good here, Jim, although I will tell you that when Marine KIAs, that's Marines who have been killed in action, are brought in, the mood definitely is a little bit down for a bit of time after that happens. They're used to seeing patients who are sick. They're used to seeing patients who don't make it. It is depressing. I think the chaplain put it well. But they also know that they are making a difference. They're saving lives that otherwise would not have been saved. Jim, in addition to being a very forward unit, the doctors here, the Devil Docs, the whole organization know that they are at times in harm's way, but they're willing to take that risk because they know interacting with these patients quickly, getting these patients treatment quickly makes all the difference. They talk about something known as the golden hour. If patients can get their care within the golden hour and then be medevaced out to the USNS Comfort or then be medevaced out to Kuwait City, that makes all the difference in the world in terms of saving lives. And that is something I think they hold on to, especially at times when things get a little rough. Jim, back to you.
Hello, Jim. The U.S. Army 7th Cavalry has been under nearly continuous fire for the past 24 hours. There have been lulls. We're in a lull now. But as I say, throughout the night and very heavy fighting this morning as the Iraqis tried to push through and overrun the 7th Cavalry's position. The Iraqis ran through some armored vehicles, a company of tanks, and they made several other efforts. In all, the 7th Cavalry has killed at least 9 Iraqi tanks and a dozen or so Iraqi fighting vehicles, 30 or more tanks. Now, in the fighting, of course, the Iraqis suffered painfully. We're told that in the past week or so, the Iraqis have lost 700 soldiers to the 7th Cavalry in the last 24 hours. The Army is saying that there are 400 dead Iraqis in this general area, the killing fields in which we've been for the last 24 hours. We were walking at one point past 2 knocked out Iraqi vehicles, and my satellite engineer and our security guard walked past what they believe was a corpse. Certainly the area had more than a few Iraqi corpses in it, and they were more than a little startled when one of those Iraqi corpses who had been shot at over 5 or 6 hours previously suddenly sat up, and he was...
Evaluation of the situation from a humanitarian standpoint, and what they told us was that they needed medical supplies for the hospitals that are treating the war wounded. So we have put some of the material we have in this warehouse here in Kuwait on 2 trucks that are going straight there following the notification. Well, we have notified both parties to the war, so the coalition and the Iraqi authorities, about this movement in order for our security to be guaranteed on the way. Meaning, we're traveling alone, we're working independently, we're not being escorted by one side or the other. We're definitely not moving alongside a military party or another, and we're going straight to Basra, and this will be distributed to the hospitals that have been identified as treating the war wounded.
Well, we are standing on the tarmac of Saddam Hussein International Airport, or should I say Baghdad International Airport. The U.S. infantry does not like to use the name Saddam Hussein in referring to this place. They have taken, with almost stunning speed, they've taken complete control of the airfield here. They're still securing some parts of it. It's a rather big space, 8 miles by 5 miles. So you're talking about 40 square miles of area. We're going to show you the plane we're standing in front of, an Iraqi airliner that apparently took some fire overnight. You can see the kind of damage that was done. Quite an impressive sight. And really, that's the story of what's happened with the 3rd Infantry's lightning quick move from south of Karbala over a 2-day period up here to the airfield. It had everything to do with the coordinated attack. The Paladin 155 howitzers, these big booming cannons, and the multiple launch rocket systems. These kinds of artillery pieces and rockets can do the kind of damage that really disabled the Iraqi opposition and allowed the ground troops to go in once the battlefield was shaped so effectively. A lot of fighting overnight and this morning on the ground to clean out the bunkers, clean out the terrain, although as many EPWs, prisoners of war that were taken, many more Iraqi Republican Guard and Special Republican Guard troops were killed. So where do we stand right now? The 3rd Infantry is in control of the airport. Some units from the 101st Airborne will be moving up to also do some security work here. And obviously this can become a critically important place once you have an airfield, not only the symbolic value and what it does in terms of disrupting any kind of Iraqi operation, but more important, it gives the military a base to not only transport, but to have helicopters, that sort of thing. So a very important, critically important maneuver over the last couple of days, which gives the United States control of Baghdad International.
Firefight to seize the complex. Many of these planes have been grounded since 1991, when international sanctions were imposed on Iraq, banning international flights in and out of the country. Many of these planes have been grounded for more than a decade. International sanctions imposed on Iraq, banning flights in and out of the country. The runways, unused for years, today littered with craters from huge bombs and shells dropped overnight.
By dawn this morning, the coalition had seized the international airport west of Baghdad, formerly known as Saddam International Airport. The airport now has a new name, Baghdad International Airport, and it is the gateway to the future Iraq.
12 miles away, the news was met with this chilling threat.
Tonight we're going to do untraditional act against them.
Not conventional.
It's an action of not conventional.
مو من قبل military.
It's not a military action.
راح نعمل بيهم شيء أعتقد راح يصير في مثال جميل جدا.
We are going to do something against them which will be an example, which is marvelous example.
Military commanders are describing the speed of the advance on Baghdad as breathtaking. But today, more American forces have been killed at a checkpoint. There are no pictures available at the moment, but it appears to be a second suicide attack in less than a week. This time it killed 3 soldiers and a pregnant woman. Tim Wilcox, BBC News.
And what you found when you got here?
Okay, well, you know, we came from we'd seized a river crossing, passed one of our sister brigades, 2nd Brigade through, and got the order to continue on here to the airport. So we did a pretty, not a very long, but a pretty torturous approach march through some rough ground, canals and dikes and levees. Broke out on the highway, came here, expecting pretty significant resistance from what we had at least thought was defending here. And got here, fought through a few isolated groups of infantry, and then we busted a hole in the wall with a tank to get a breach, and got here, and virtually nothing in terms of threat.
Now, there was a lot of fire all night long. Most of it, I assume, was outgoing, but
right.
Somebody was out there.
Well, we fired a pretty significant rocket and artillery preparation fires. We had Air Force flying over us all night, and we knew that there were some significant facilities here in terms of command and control and weapons storage, air defense sites. And so we had targeted a lot of those and fired those. As we came in, we did find few isolated pockets of infantry, but just not the massive, overwhelming force, armored infantry, artillery that we were expecting.
Resist them, you the people of the brave, glorious Baghdad. Whenever they approached you, and tried to attack you, depend on God and hold close to your principles and the honor of men and women and the meaning of belief and the meanings of pledges and vows. You are now, dear people of Baghdad and people of Iraq, you are a symbol of dignity, and with God's help you will be victorious, and they will be, God willing, defeated, overcome and cursed. God is great. Dignity belongs to God, and victory belongs to Iraq. God is great. Long live our nation. Long live Iraq. Long live Iraq. Long live Palestine. Come to jihad. Their dead are in hell, and their living will be living a humiliation, and our dead will be in paradise, and those living will have dignity and honor. You have dignity. Oh, you Iraqis of Baghdad and Iraq. God is great. God is great. And let the criminals lose.
More active Iraqi irregulars attacking U.S. Army positions, particularly in the area of the 7th Cavalry. The smoke is probably no more than a quarter to a third mile behind me, and that smoke is pouring up into the air. It appeared to be a stealthful mission by the Iraqis sneaking up on the U.S. Army unit, which is behind me. The Army saw it, quickly fired on it regularly, but we can hear continuous booming of 120mm mortars in the background, again attesting that while the U.S. Army controls the Baghdad International Airport, it does not control the hostile areas around the airport and beyond the airport. And indeed, the 7th Cavalry, the unit with which I'm embedded, has been receiving some rather hostile fire throughout the day. There have been periodic lulls, but again, the Iraqis are out there, sometimes in force, sometimes with tanks and armored personnel carriers. They have tried desperately to override the 7th Cavalry's position, but so far with little success.
For a time today, they laid down their arms when they heard the call to prayer. On this, the Islamic holy day, soldiers, Feda'in Saddam volunteers, Ba'ath Party militiamen, even an army brigadier joined civilians in an act of worship. The loudspeakers weren't working because of the power cuts. The Imam instead used the natural acoustics of the mosque to deliver his message. He said America is attacking Iraq because Iraq is the place where Islam is strongest in the world. People in this city are slowly becoming aware how close the advancing US troops really are. Things changed overnight. There was the biggest aerial bombardment for days, most of it targeting the area around the airport.
The British Army caught up with men they suspect of involvement in the murder of two of their own. The father and son have been stopped at a roadside checkpoint outside El Zubayr. Both were handcuffed. This was humiliation for men the British believed helped rule the town by fear. A crowd gathered. The old regime was being dismantled before their eyes.
What's the problem?
Among them, the older man's sister and brother-in-law.
Discuss, no problem.
Please,